All right, hello again. It's Chad Everett Broshears, the creator of the Human Manual and also the host of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. And this is Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. Now, today I'm going to make a quick video on getting started and the hangups that are there and the why get started. So let me pull up my first value part of the video. That is right here. Okay. Give me a second while I minimize the son of a gun. I'm getting a little more proficient as we move along on this particular portion. So here we go. The wonderful disclaimer. Drift off into madness. Here we go. All right, just so you know, I do not intend to replace any medical personnel or medical advice or anything of that nature. I am not standing in the stead of any of those things, but this is through the philosophical teachings that I've developed for my company, as well as I've implemented with many other people that have shown great and significant benefits of shifting their paradigms. So here is the legal portion of it. All right, pause the video, take a quick read, and then move forward. All right, now let's get to it. Okay, so with that, what are some of the hangups? Now, there's something that somebody somewhere along the lines have convinced you that it's a way of living your life, a quality way of living your life. That's a more desirable thing. It's far more desirable for you to live your life being very wealthy or having a great relationship or whatever it is that somebody else has offered you. And it seems very enticing. So you pursue it as if that's going to be your way of living, the best way for you to live your life, the best way of creating quality to your life. But then there's the big gap between whatever it is that they have shown you and what you currently have or the potential that you currently have available to achieve that. If it's being extremely wealthy, which way are you going to acquire that? If you do it the way that they did it, by the way, if you win the lottery and you think that you'll instantly have the entire concept of what the person is that you've qualified as wealthy. Wealthy is also a trained or a learned state of being. Rich is not always the same as wealthy as far as a distinction. Being rich is you could be rich because you have $14,000 in the bank and you're in a third world country. Or in our country and you've lived in poverty your whole life and then you have $14,000 that you don't need to get into. It can still be conceivably as rich or even conceivably as wealthy at the fact that you could go without working for a period of time and not have to pay or do anything to acquire money to pay your bills. But you could also be rich fairly quickly because somebody gave you, or like you won the lottery. Doesn't mean that you're necessarily wealthy. I would say wealth is more of a measurement of how long you could sustain yourself without working, or how long you could sustain yourself in any area, not just money, but in any area without putting effort into it necessarily, or putting minimal effort into it. So wealth and riches, but you have an idea about what it should be like to be wealthy. Now, if it's walking around in a tuxedo and you've got our suits and all this fanciness and all of this, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just the money. There's a class of behavior. There's all kinds of stuff that people qualify. You may have qualified that yourself subconsciously or even consciously, but not necessarily have recognized that if you actually had that money available at this moment, or whatever your measurement of that success level is, whether it's the car and money or the car and the girl and the money or whatever, there's still a lot of other things that go into being wealthy or being rich that you have actually chosen. Let me move this up a bit here. Make sure we've got good quality sound. Get my little shield back in place. All right, let's see if that's a little bit better. I don't mind moving it. There we go. All right. My trademark. You know, it's an official video of mine if you see that son of a bitch come into the screen. All right. So, you know, there's a lot to it. It's not just having a certain amount of money in the bank, because there's a lifestyle or a fabricated reality that you've observed somebody else express and said, that'd be nice to have. You observe all of these nuances. It's not just one thing. It's not going to focus on that one thing. You've probably, and you may have heard this, you may not have, where somebody has gotten to the point where they have actually amounted or surmounted the amount that was equivalent to the person they modeled themselves by, as far as the financial model goes. And the individual did not, they feel kind of empty or hollow with it. It doesn't fully satisfy them. When they first got there, yes, but then it got to the point where they started realizing it wasn't fully satisfying. So there's a lot of value in understanding that there's a lot of things that were actually measured by it, even down to the little subtle nuances about how somebody behaves, the way that they carry their body, the poise, the way that they express themselves, hand gestures, all the body language as a whole. All of those things are observed, and they're considered to be all part of this, idea we call, wealth and class. So there's actually quite a bit of training that goes into it. There's a lifestyle adjustment that's necessary. It's not just that you have that much money in the bank, because there's plenty of people that are of that wealthy community, and then they'll get somebody who's recently come into wealth by, maybe oil or whatever their reasons are, like somebody out of Texas, right? Texas going to have their little horns and all that, wearing their big old cowboy hats, showing up. I ain't got no class. That may have been a horrible satire, but I've got some country roots in myself. But I know I've seen that, and I know that I've talked to people that have had that same belief, that somebody who's recently come into money, they may reference as being new money, stuff like that, and they don't quite have the class that comes with it. So they're kind of not necessarily accepted. And one of the last things that I'm sure you want to do is create a position where you have a large amount of money, right? And you have no tribe to go into, or very few people in the tribe you're going into. Is the people that knew you, and while you were building the money, has the relationship that happened. They may not have supported you. They may have abandoned you, or they may want a piece of your pie, or even worse yet, they may have abandoned you and want a piece of your pie, right? And then it's kind of like it'll leave you like, screw you. You weren't there to help me get through my struggles, and now you want part of my reward. No, part of the fruit of my hard work. You want that, but you weren't there to help me. Screw you. Now that's very common. Extremely common. Family members are also common to do this to other people. So know that what you want is, we have to prepare you. Like you really have to be prepared in order to achieve what you want. It's not just getting that thing, because with a, even with a Lamborghini comes the maintenance. And if you have the Lamborghini at your current pay, if you weren't able to buy the car initially yourself or get the financing for the car initially yourself, you're not likely going to be able to pay for the maintenance. Even a Porsche is expensive on its maintenance by comparison to a Hyundai. Right? Now, a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, yeah, maintenance can be more than a Hyundai costs whole just to have the vehicle maintained. Now, it can be those kind of costs, because those are very expensive luxury vehicles. And if you so use that as a scenario or an understanding as an example that you're not ready for it yet to have full satisfaction. Because if you have a Lamborghini you can't even drive, but you got the damn payments that keep showing up, with thousands of dollars a month that keep showing up, and you can't even get it out of the driveway because you can't afford to get it fixed. The vehicle is now owning you, and the quality's not there for you. You have a bragging right that you can't even take out to use, right? It's no longer a bragging right. Now it's a hindrance, and you look like an idiot for making the decisions to get this thing when you couldn't sustain it. Right? So you don't necessarily look like an idiot as a whole, but you get people can definitely have that view on you. People are very judgmental. All right, so you have to really be prepared to achieve what we want. Now, some of the hangups are when you don't know how to get there, you'll make excuses to why you can't get there. We have a habit of doing this. We love doing this, actually, where we say, well, it wasn't meant to be, or, if anybody's caught that video or some of the videos I've talked about fate and destiny, you'll know I am no advocate for that concept. But if that's your belief, it wasn't meant to be, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, you just resign. Go ahead and put your resignation paperwork in for your dreams and settle into mediocrity. Really, like just settle into a desk job where you're not going to advance very far, and you're going to have the life to the joys and the drawbacks and everything that you've had at this point. You'll continue to have very similar experiences unless life creates an intervention towards the negative or the positive. Either way, you're not going to be the one doing it. Life's going to be, you're going to be a consequence for life. And most of the time people get negative interventions, not positive. Not everybody has an extremely wealthy aunt they don't know anything about, and she passes away and leaves everything to them. Not everybody has that. Very few people have that. That's like a lottery kind of scenario, as far as the odds go. So, because a lot of family members to distribute it to for that wealthy aunt, right? So with that, there's a lot of hangups. We'll make excuses. There's reasons why we don't want to do something. And it's now a time to actually look at what are those hangups, because that's your cost. You're paying that every time you don't pursue your dreams. That's an expensive cost, because that continues to make you fabricate and fantasize, but yet it also is what jumps in the way as your little gremlin of sabotage, that you say, I want to achieve this. Man, I really want to achieve this. My boss is an asshole. Or I want to work for myself, and owning my own business will be the thing, and then I'll be free forever, and I'll make my own schedule, and I'll have all kinds of money, and I'll make all the decisions, and the fantasy of it rather than preparing for the reality of it. So most people get hung up on what they don't know, and they don't pick up a book. They don't seek out a mentor. They're not doing any of that stuff. Most people don't do it. They're like, oh, it just wasn't meant to be. You see, I really do have a problem with that concept, meant to be, and fate and destiny and all that nonsense. But most people don't pick up a book. The book's written, there's a purpose for it to be written. Doesn't matter, there's always a purpose. Now, is the purpose for the book being written satisfying what you don't know about achieving your goals? Now, your goals are going to be very multifaceted. You don't have one goal. You have multiple goals for your life. Now, if you consider that through the practice of developing tools and structures and strategies to accomplish any one of your goals, the more often you put in resignation to your structure and your strategies, the more likely you are to do that to all other areas. So you're like, okay, well, it's too much work. The only time I hear that it's too much work, or what I hear from people when they say it's too much work, is they just don't know enough. Right? They don't know enough to clearly see the outcome. Right? You don't have to necessarily clearly see the path. You just don't know enough to even start learning enough to acquire and to accomplish your outcome. So with that, it's very multi-dynamic when it comes to actually understanding how to achieve your goals. So like I said, this is going to be a short video. I'll expand on this later. As far as the actual dreams, I hope you understand that actually requires that you do put in the work. You're not going to fall into the right position for your dreams. It's not going to happen. You've got to you have to train yourself for these things. Now, you don't have to necessarily adopt all of their behaviors. You do the behaviors you want, but understand that if you do acquire, if wealth's the name of the game for you, or riches are the name of the game for you, you may be on an island at that point. Because if you acquire that much money in the society that would be your society, if you will, your group, your clan, your tribe, the other wealthy individuals that can understand your plight, your hardships, your triumphs and all of that, the ones that could really get it and that aren't lining up like, pigs at in a farm at the trough waiting for their piece of it. You'll find that a lot of people actually feel like you owe them. Just because you've made it, they want a piece of the pie, that they don't want to work for it. They didn't want to work for it, but they feel because you're friends that you owe it to them, right? But they weren't really there to help you build it. Most of the time, that's the case. Now, sometimes you'll have the exceptions, but those are very rare. And usually if they've helped you build it, they also have built something for themselves at the same time, and they're not sitting there with their hands out asking you for anything. If anything, they may be asking you for knowledge, but they're not asking you for money most of the time. Now, if they are asking you for money, you have to be the one to make the decision on that. I'm not involved in that scenario at this point, other than there's plenty of different directions and degrees to go through things, but really think it out before you start throwing money around, and also think it out before you start asking for handouts. So you might actually be the one, the hogs at the sloth trough, at the trough, right? You might be one of those that is sitting there thinking that you're owed something because your friends made it. You don't have to have a bunch of money in order to be making it, right? That's just a very, very easy example. Some people, as they just become so proficient in an area of knowledge that other people feel that they are owed guidance in that knowledge. But they don't want to necessarily take the advice or the knowledge. They just think that you owe it to them. So whenever they ask, you have to give it. So that's another factor. I've experienced that personally, where people believe that that I owe them because I know certain things, or that I have the ability to figure things out, or to seek out knowledge and information in order to create a solution. I usually don't mind that, but now I actually charge for that. This is part of my company. It's part of like continuing my endeavors so that I could better myself, or create more experiences for myself to offer that for other people, so we could really make a more cohesive existence. And I've had people that just plain out, basically tell me, why should I pay for any of your courses? You should give me that information. Other people are giving information. Okay. I don't mind having conversations and creating minor solutions, but if I have to put work into it with you, would I show up at your job and tell you to do it for me for free? Right? Or would I tell you when you're not working that you need to come over and build a deck on my house? Or whatever. Like most people don't really look at it from all angles. They look at it from the me angle. So, these are hangups that people do deal with. If you're the one with your hand out, you don't know how to acquire, and you're into the receiving charity game. Only so many people can receive charity. So just keep that in mind. Now, those are hangups. There's many ways of looking at a hangup. A hangup's not just your own personal choice where you have the consciousness to recognize you made a choice. Your hangups can also be simply, you owe me. Entitlement is a hangup. It's a hardcore, deeply embedded hangup. No one owes you a damn thing unless it's on a contract form and they say they owe it to you because you guys agreed that it's owed. But as far as in general, no one owes you a damn thing. So get over the entitlement concept. That is a deep hang-up that takes me time to unwind in a person so that they understand that they are actually the ones responsible for their future, and to stop sitting around bitching and griping and blaming it on all kinds of social milus or stigmas, right? Like racism or classisms or nationalisms or whatever. If there's an ism, most of the time people use it as an excuse for why they haven't acquired or accomplished their goals. So you see with this is actually empowering and creating responsibility. I come across that regularly. It's not fair. Well, yeah, life is not designed to be fair. Life doesn't occur to be fair. Life, by the way, fair has two sides. Most of the time, the person says life isn't fair is the bitcher. The one that says, but it was poor me. I shouldn't have had this happen to me, blah, blah, blah. You know what else isn't fair is when you win the lottery, right? You're the one person of, however many thousands of people. That's not fair either. But you don't look at it from it's not fair as you walk around with all that money. Most people look at it like, I'm lucky. Rather than, it's not fair I won over all those other people, but I played the odds like they did. Do you see? Fair is bullshit. If that's the way you want to live your life, turn in your resignation, man. Put it in. Join mediocrity with the rest of the people that want to just stay in the complaints. So get fair is not just one-sided. All right? Life either happens to you or you are the one at cause for life. If you don't know what that means or how it works, all right, let's get to learning. All right. With that, again, this is Chad Everett Broshears. I am the founder of the Human Manual and also the host of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please, as always, if you like what you've heard, leave comments in the comment section, any kind of feedback in the comment section. Subscribe, follow me. I'm always grateful to see another new subscriber or multiple new subscribers. And share on your social media or through emails or whatever. Just share as you wish. I am happy to help people develop into a life that they wish to have. So with that, again, thank you much for watching, and I look forward to our next video together.